counterpart, Pauline's Pearls at Santa Anita, and with the rain out there, we're a little nervous.
Are they
about
racing today?
That's a great question.
Oh, yeah. Because the Santa Anita did cancel, so if it sprinkles...
It canceled yesterday.
Yes.
So we're hoping that does happen. But
You're hoping they cancel?
No, we're hoping they do race.
I was about to say,
race.
yeah. So Steve is a 2-time Eclipse Award winner. Hey, Sarah, can you lower that? There, thanks. Steve is a 2-time Eclipse Award winner for Outstanding Trainer. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2016, and as I mentioned while I was doing my, improv, he saddled his 10,000th winner when we had our Monday racing, and that does exactly making him the all-time winningest trainer in North America. Not the all-time winningest trainer yet.
Yes, there's a man in Peru that is obviously very good at this, and he's not standing still,
But I did some research, and he's got about 12 years on you.
Yep.
I mean, I know that sounds bad, but I mean, that's true. He's got about at least a good 12, 15 years, and you're only about 300 behind him. And at the rate you send out horses, that's a good, year and a half for you?
Well, the fact that he doesn't sit still, we're very fortunate to be in the position we are.
I know that sounds bad. I don't sugarcoat anything, Steve.
The
Come on.
fact that we're aware that he's out there. If you're going to be the all-time leading trainer in North America, why not just try everywhere, right?
Exactly. So Steve's. How many of you knew that Steve was a former jockey? He doesn't, no offense, he doesn't look like a former jockey, does he? Because his parents are the cutest, tiniest things ever.
Yep.
I mean, they're so tiny.
Well, Dad wouldn't appreciate you saying that, but they're
just, they look like they should be cake toppers.
They are a unbelievable couple. They met when they were, I think, 8 years old, and have been married 62 years now and stuff, and they are the reason that Nancy talks to me every once in a while, because everything that we've accomplished is just an extension of what they started and sent me and my brother out to continue.
So Steve got his first win after retiring as a jockey, which you did have a lot of success as a jockey. Let's not...
No, I did not.
Yes, you did.
That is sugarcoating it. I think I mean, if you look closely, I think I'm 8% for my life as a jockey.
No, but in the money, I think he was 42%.
I think it was 4 horse fields, but no. It's amazing that I got the opportunity to ride. I did grow out of it quickly, or grew out of being effective at it quickly, but I do believe that those experiences are invaluable, and some that I cherish very much, and especially now with my oldest son riding here and being able to be a part of the excitement that he has for it and the stories that he does. So racing is such a special event when you can share it together and compete, on this level. We're here at Oaklawn, doing it against the best and trying to apply our craft every day, and it makes it so exciting to be able to do it together.
So there's a little track in Arizona, I believe Arizona, Ruidoso.
New Mexico.
New Mexico, my apologies.
Yeah, New Mexico.
Where Steve got his very first win as a trainer, and when I talk to people about their first win, they literally remember it as if it was yesterday, all the way back in 1986. Do you still remember that day?
I am blessed with a pretty good memory, and I relive so many races and enjoy that part of it so much. And Victory's Halo, winning my first winner as a trainer, is, I'm extremely proud of where we started and the level we started in, and to build it into what we have now and the opportunity that it is now. But anybody who's been in horse racing or involved with it knows how important every single race is to the people involved. And the stats that she'll read and the horses she'll read are a blessing to be a part of, and they did it for us. But I think the simplest things on the lowest level mean so much in horse racing. And victories, halo, winning, Rock Finder, it was my second one, which I think the unique part about being at 10,000 is it was 6 months between my first and second win, So,
hey, we all have droughts,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, literally, there's droughts.
Exactly. But, I mean, when they win, that's what your anticipation, your preparation was, hoping for that outcome. And regardless of the level, when they win, that is as good as it can feel for as long as we can get that to last.
Well, it's funny that the purse for Steve's first win was $2,600, and now he competes in races where the purse is like $10 million.
I think that's the American way now. We all get blue ribbons. We get participation points. Well, the difference now is if you show up, you get more. My first year of training, how did you, I think I had 15 starts, 1 win, and I believe my earnings for my first year were $2,600. I think for the whole year, the horses are 26. I did have a side job.
Well, that was 1986 as well.
I did freelance gallop on the side.
So I can remember one of the first years I met you, I was back here on the backside at Oaklawn, and you had a very good, you were still galloping and dating.
Yes, I mean, like I said, my father was a jockey all growing up, and my mom trained horses continuously until I did it. And for the first several years of my training career, my father was my main rider.
Yeah.
Whenever available and stuff.
Wow.
And you talk about remembering victories. Recently, when I went by 10,000, Gerald Thompson sent me a clip from the 1978 All-American Fraternity.
Wow.
Where my mom was the trainer of, back then it was world's richest horse race.
Yes.
And it was a big deal, and the horse that we had was fourth, but my dad was the jock and my mom was the trainer. And they interviewed him in, what a beautiful moment to
Absolutely.
see, where you came from and why. And in the little background there was at 12 leading him out of the paddock, But you were the help, when you talk about doing it on that level and stuff. Cash, that was his first year to go off to ride. He's 4 years my senior, and he was at the time he won the Eclipse for leading apprentice in the country, and it was his first year gone. So. Next man up, regardless of age back then.
Your parents have amazing stock, I tell you what, and it continues on in your family.
Commenting on that and answering questions that weren't asked. When you with Julie and the boys and how important the family is to this, and you think of the humble beginnings which you're mentioning and where you're starting, and then the nostalgia of sending that tape from 1978 and how, that's what we did for a living. No side jobs, no mailbox money. That's what we did for a living. And their 12-year-old son is leading the horse. I believe, it moves me in the fact that the confidence that my parents put in us as kids, I think, has put us in this position, and how important that is for us as parents now to pass that along, we make things so much more important than they actually are, as far as when the real thing is what we're developing.
Well, that's a great segue point, because I was talking about how this meet is a little bit different because Keith is now one of your regular riders, and this is a big race meet. Very important. And he's getting some really good experience. This is not the first place that he's ever ridden. He's already a stakes winner. But Keith, obviously named for Steve's dad, is riding not only for Steve, but in addition to other trainers. But I love the fact that he got his first win for Wayne Lucas, of another amazing Hall of Famer. And you were also in the winner's circle, but there's a big, important tie between those families.
Well, I believe in divine intervention. When you talk about everything we've accomplished, and then the significance of 9,446 when we went by Dale Baird for
North American
leading trainer, and that had been my target for several years and on my mind. And for it to happen on Whitney Day at Saratoga with the whole family there, for Ron Winchell, who, you know, he can't even measure it in that way. I mean, his father, Vern, before his passing, was, you know, my father's main client. And when I first started, he's, you know, got us, sent us horses to go to the racetrack, you know, at 20, you know, and then to have such a significant happen with everybody there. And then, like you mentioned, the significance of Keith now riding and the association. We got to Laredo, Texas, pretty much in a commune with Lucas when they all were with quarter horses, and Mom and Dad stayed, and then Wayne went on to do everything that he's done. But the Asmussen's association with Lucas goes back to South Dakota in the early 60s.
Wow.
And for, you know, Keith and him to start riding is just an amazing story, and it's something that came out of the pandemic. He was at school at the University of Texas, and when that happened and everything went online, he started galloping horses regularly for me then. To that point, you know, with us growing, he had ridden and galloped horses at Mom and Dad's in Laredo on spring break, Christmas break, things like that. But the continuance, the school going online, him galloping, and Texas being one of the few, a lot of places not running at all.
Right.
You know, why not?
We were very fortunate too.
It was such a different time. Nobody in the grandstand.
Right.
It was
social. We could not be this close.
Racing went to. It was morning workouts that they let some people bet on. Is what it kind of felt like. It was, you know. And then why not? And then he made the promise to me and his mom that he would finish school, got his master's at the University of Texas, and then it still had the desire, and when he graduated, started exercising horses at Saratoga and did it right. You know, got his weight slowly, got his weight down, and we had the discussion. There's no hurry. There's no window here. You know, the longer if you do it right, get your weight down slowly, the longer you'll get to stay there.
Right.
You know, and he's obviously a tall kid and very disciplined to do it, but couldn't be more proud. And now as nice as that is, as special as that is, now that he's riding, wow, the good thing is he takes after cash more than me. He's good at it, you know.
He's very good at it.
And the bonus is he's excellent at it and stuff. And like you mentioned, you know, to compete, you know, and he didn't take out his apprenticeship, which is a weight allowance, and we discussed it. It just, the pressure of being too light at 5'10", I think would be detrimental to where you end up. And the apprenticeship's a great way to get people started and to get rides so they can get experience with an advantage. But we talked about it, and I think the longer you stay somewhere and the more consistent you are, the longer it lasts. So I think it's more importantly where we end up than how we start.
Now, I have to ask, and I don't want to poke the bear, but I've seen some post-race chats that you've had with riders. Do you have the same discussions when you don't like something Keith does? I'm
way harder on him than the others, and I love the fact that he is tough enough and he appreciates it. And the funny thing about being tough on anybody that you work with, if you say thank you very much and walk off, doesn't mean you agreed. It just means you don't plan on using them again.
You know, exactly.
Please do that. Please do that for the next guy.
Yeah.
If you actually care enough to address what you think should be different,
right,
you at least plan on using them again.
Right.
I think that's hilarious. So people, he likes me. No,
we'll never ride you again. You're on the do not ride list.
It came up yesterday. You know, when somebody said, man, it's got to be hard to be your son and ride for you. I go, no, he's used to it. I mean, he
grew up with it.
Right. We're extremely intense, and our expectations are everything. I mean, we've talked about it a million times. Either everything matters or nothing matters. You know, and if you're going to do this, who do you want to beat? You want to beat everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're honest about what you think you see, and the feedback is honest from then, you'll come up with good solutions and a different approach. But I think it's a huge mistake that you see in horse racing. You watch a replay or discuss something and you see the little twinkle in the eye, oh, that gives you hope, and you're making an excuse for not being right. You're not going to get a different outcome. You're just going to repeat just what just happened. And this game is all about adjustments. I mean, everybody feels that they're all champions. Yeah. No, they all have a different level of ability, and if they're placed against other ones that have more ability then everybody's right. But it's what makes horse racing just so special, because it's not construction. You're not going to win because of a previous race. You're not going to win because you should. You're going to win because of the performance. We love sports, but nothing is better than horse racing, because you don't get paid for what you've previously done. You get paid for what you do right then.
So I've noticed your youngest son is also galloping. Does he have aspirations of riding?
If anybody's walked on a racetrack, and it doesn't matter if they're 4 foot tall or 7, everybody wants to ride. I think
it's true.
Admitting it, it's like, do you want to win the Kentucky Derby?
Yes.
The answer is yes. So do you want to ride?
Yes.
So it's so much fun, and for him, as you mentioned, he gallops here regularly and stuff, and he is being the youngest. I think it's very similar to like me being the youngest in my family. Julie's the youngest. Yeah, he's a combination of everybody all at once.
That's a good thing.
It's amazing. It really is. With no filter, makes it even better.
We talked about the middle and the youngest, but let's talk about the oldest, Eric, because
Keith's the oldest. Eric's
Keith's the oldest. Yes. So Eric is the youngest, but he's the biggest.
Darren's the biggest.
Darren's the biggest?
The middle, Darren's the biggest. He is. His chances of being jockey, I think, left about the 6th grade, and yeah, he took after me, but he took after me soon, So he is a senior at Baylor now, and he is absolutely beautiful in the fact that he has all of the athletic ability, all of it, always has.
I loved his graduation
Can literally do
celebration.
anything, and he takes after his mother in his mentality, which makes him an absolutely perfect human being.
So Eric, who is here, is a new owner.
Yes, he is.
Celebrated his first win as an owner because of his horsemanship.
I'm going to tell him what a horrible parent I am in this regard, and the youngest.
Let me record this so I can send it to
Probably
Julie.
only the youngest gets away with something like this, but his junior year of high school is when the pandemic started and everything went online. And we're in Arlington, Texas, Lamar High School, 6A school. They're going to go online, computers, website, whatever. I think 2 days into it, students obscene things. Oh, can't do that, And so it went off, whatever, turn it in. What schoolwork they did over the next year and a half is extremely debatable. Here, everybody gold star, you graduate.
Netflix and chill.
At the whole time working at the barn, galloping horses, just entrenched in horse racing and stuff. College, no. Okay. Wasted. Okay. Hey, Dad, what'd you do with that money? I'd like to claim some horses that I saved you for not going to college.
Right.
So, yes, Eric's a new owner.
It's a different type of investment, ladies and gentlemen.
He is in college now, known as
Horse Ownership U.
Yeah.
Yes.
Horse Ownership 101.
So here's the question, because Steve is very big in the claiming game, not only for his owners, but also for himself at every possible level. What was it, Archie-bred maiden 20 you claimed?
If somebody will ask, why'd you want that horse? Because they run that race. And to me, all races are important. If they don't run that race, I will not want that horse. But they run that race, so I would want one of those horses.
So obviously Eric is a very astute horseman, having the last name that he does, and coming out of the womb knowing horse racing. Does he pick out his horses, or do you lend the hand? Does he ask your advice? How does that work?
It's gotten to the point where he picks out mine.
I like it. Good for him.
He is a better handicapper than I am, and he is better at it than I am.
I like that. So I'm obviously not going to ask Steve what his favorite horse is. That's like saying, who's your favorite son? But is there a particular race or event in horse racing that you happen to look forward to?
I very much look forward to whoever's in next. I mean,
Okay.
I really do. The only thing
that
can get me past disappointment is success, and probably a weakness or a failure in me, but I definitely need something else in after a couple bad races. And when you say favorite horses, I think it's timing of horses that are significant.
Yes.
Whenever we were horses of their ability or mentality or who they are individually has improved us. And if it wasn't for certain individual horses, we wouldn't be where we're at. And the lessons that we've learned from these individual horses, a horse named Valid Expectations, when I was my first stakes winner here ever, was, I believe 96, he was a horse that the Ackerley brothers, Bob and Lee Ackerley, I met at the opening of Sam Houston Race Park. They were there, but they grew up next to Belmont Park. Their parents were teachers, and I met them at the races, and they'd already owned some horses. Maiden special weights there then were 5,000. They had one 10,000 feature on the day, and they went out. Dad went to him with the OBS sale and bought Valid Expectations. He ended up being my first graded stakes winner when he won the Derby trial a year later. But he also was my first stakes winner here, my first stakes winner in New York. And I made a tremendous amount of mistakes with him, but his mentality and his ability overcame it. And he taught me so many things at that level, from traveling, placement, just going into races like that, and what he could take. And he was just an individual horse that wouldn't have come along then. We wouldn't be where we're at now. And then Curlin himself was a horse that taught us how to win at the highest level, to beat anybody. And without him, I don't think there would have been a Rachel or a Gun Runner or any of the horses that followed. I cannot imagine there being two more significant horses in a trainer's career than those two were to me.
Definitely good ones, but I want to talk 3-year-olds. Can we talk 3-year-olds?
Do you have one?
No, I think you do. That damn Kentucky Derby, though. Steve's been runner-up
I'm gonna,
3 times.
I believe
3 times.
I believe in divine intervention. I just really do. And what a relief that is to blame it on somebody other than myself. You know, I cannot make myself watch last year's replay. I've seen glimpses of it. Can't watch it through.
I don't watch myself either. It's too brutal.
We've had chances in the Derby. Curlin, obviously should have won. Part of the mistakes, learning experience. Gun Runner, same thing. But I never. When they walked the leading up to post parade, walking in the gates, at no point was I ever more confident than last year that it was going to happen. That he was the best horse, and that he was prepared, and that he was. Prepared for everything that may or may not happen. And I'm very proud of the race he rode, and I think Joel rode an excellent race on him. I thought he fought back the horse that was his main competition, and I think he ended up second. And the scenario in which Rich Strike wins it is as improbable as is in horse racing, but what makes horse racing so special, and the fact that the Derby is so much an event as much as it is a horse race.
See, they just go faster without the weight on them. What is it though, Steve, that the Kentucky Derby particularly, that 2 minutes is so elusive? I think you just said it.
Don't know. I haven't ever caught one before. But the thing that I mistakenly or tell myself or whatever is, when it does happen, it's going to just mean that much more. Things that come easy don't feel as good.
They're not as, so, it's better when you have to work that much harder. But I will say, Red Route 1. I've become a huge fan of him. You love to root for him because he was second in the Southwest. He was second in the Rebel. And when the race is running and they're showing the backstretch, he's not even in the picture. That is pure gumption. It's heart. And it kind of looks like, and correct me if I'm wrong, the further the races are set in the series, the better he's going to be.
He needs to improve considerably. He needs to be faster. But that is possible. I mean, he has matured greatly from 2 to 3 physically. I mean, it's obvious how much more of him is there. And he is very exciting because races do go further and he keeps coming. It is very difficult for a horse that comes from that far back to navigate around
traffic,
19 and 20. And it is... you get the Giacomos and you get the Mind That Birds that fate intervenes.
The Rich Strikes.
But he is fun to have, and we're excited about him going into the Arkansas Derby. I have added blinkers on him. He does need to stay more engaged down the backside. I thought he gave himself too much to do.
Okay.
For me, put himself in an equinely impossible spot, So... we do need him to. He gives me a feel of looking at Lee personality-wise.
I loved him. Who was second?
Ended up Corey Lannery gave him a dream trip. At the quarter pole. Bodemeister finished up well, but he gave us a tremendous thrill with the run he put in around the turn and a good finish. We are going to run a horse in the Louisiana Derby that has. It's safe to say. Tricky for a trainer to say, but I feel has more talent than Red Route 1. It's a horse named Disarm, who was second here in a comeback race going a mile. He was a little behind schedule. Loved that we got the race in him here. And I can say that I think he has more talent than Red Route 1 because they're both owned by Winchell Thoroughbreds.
Yes.
So, but he does not have the setup or the racing experience that Red Route 1 does, so he's a little behind it, but we're still extremely high on that horse and think that he will be a player in the Triple Crown races.
So Steve mentioned earlier he has Pauline's Pearl in a stakes at Santa Anita today, pending, of course, the weather situation, but across the board, Steve has 21 horses entered at 6 different tracks today. One of those here at Oaklawn is Clairiere in today's Grade 2 Azeri. Very looking forward to her. She is the leading earner in that particular group with over $2.1 million. Does make her 5-year-old debut off of a third. I thought she should have won in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. I'm glad that Malathat retired, I'm sure. But it's kind of an interesting go back. Tell us how she's training coming into today's field.
Both Clairiere and Pauline's Pearl, who's scheduled to run at Santa Anita today, are both racing royalty, Stone Street bred mares. That both of them Grade 1 winners, but not only that, they're Clairiere's Curlin out of Cavorting, multiple Grade 1 winner. mare herself, and Pauline's Pearl being a Tap It Out, a Hot Dixie chick, and Bodie Mice family. They're both of them. The fact that Barbara Banke and Stone Street, continued to run these at 5. It's in the Jess Jackson spirit of horsemanship.
Yes.
And it is very unique to have something that valuable run. They're like artwork as far as what are they worth.
I love that. They're like artwork.
Both of them are. And Clariere, she's just as elegant and beautiful as a horse can be. And we're beyond excited to get to run her today.
So Steve has been surrounded by phenomenal horses. Is there a particular quality, maybe some type of style or characteristic that they all happen to possess?
No.
They're all individuals, but...
And very unique. I think that the rarest quality are the ones that are going to be who they are regardless of who's around them. Mm-hmm. They're the leader. They're carrying the whole team. And we touched on a couple of horses that I've been fortunate to be exposed to that we're going to get it done regardless of who was around them.
So because of Steve's success and the fame, there's always going to be scrutiny. And we've seen that in our industry with the growth of social media, horse racing being in the headlines. From your vantage point, Steve, what is a major misconception about horse racing?
I think it's not something I'm worried about. It's like opera. It's not for everybody. Understandable. I mean...
I love that. I'm going to put that on a bumper sticker.
No, but if you're lucky enough to be in it, it's impossible to explain how awesome it is. And if you don't like it, I guess it's kind of like why
go try pottery.
That's why Baskin Robbins has more than one flavor. By racing, worry about who you do like, who doesn't, and not the opposite. It's nobody or nothing can please everybody.
I totally agree. So I think Steve would agree with me, and I think so, that I don't think they make horsemen like they used to. I don't think people are...
I beg to differ.
Really?
I think that the access from when you're young is not as prevalent as when we grew up, and that has something to do with it. But you mentioned, the fame that you don't seek out, but I am somewhat recognizable. And it is amazing to me and surprising to me that no matter where you're at in the world, there's racing fans.
Yes.
I mean, you touched on who doesn't like horse, whatever.
A lot of people love it.
They want to voice their opinion. It's amazing to, be in an airport in Detroit or Chicago or whatever, and somebody walk up and ask you about a horse that ran last week or something. So and for us to presume we know what everybody else in the world's thinking is a mistake. But one of the most amazing things that me and Eric experienced were 3 years ago when we went to Saudi for the original Saudi Cup and with Midnight Bassoux. Mm-hmm. And to think you're in a country that no gambling, no drinking, and they know half of the horses you've run in the last 6 months. That's truly amazing.
They embrace it.
And it wasn't just Curlin and Rachel Alexander and Midnight Bassoux. What 3-year-old do you like? I see you had a maiden that ran good the other day. It was through an interpreter. What a wonderful thing. And if Nancy, from when you worked in the test barn here, if you've been around, to suggest that we know how somebody else feels about a horse is a mistake.
Yeah.
And I think there's plenty of horse lovers out there. We'll be okay.
So guys the caliber of your dad, Don Von Hemel, Wayne Lucas, who's 87 years old, still gets on the pony every day, has a barn full of standouts, and is probably one of the main competitors for Clariere today. You've hit 10,000 wins, on target to becoming the world's winningest trainer. Is there ever a point of slowdown? And I think I know the answer, but I want them to hear it.
For common sense reasons, yes. I mean, I think that absolutely. But the only way I think that would be what I wanted would be to pass the torch to one of the kids that wanted to do it. And I would rather help them than compete against them. But I guess my job's safe since they all want to be jockeys right now.
Do any of your sons have a desire if Eric does decide to ride, have a desire to train? Because that's a really good transition going from gallop to jockey to trainer, because you're really full circle.
I don't think that they think about that right now, because I knew when I was nearing the end of my riding career that I would have rather, at the time, I would have rather exercised horses than be a trainer.
Okay.
And the reward from training wasn't daily like riding is, even if you're exercising horses. And it was probably, just honestly, probably a reluctant 6 years of before you're really all in and I need to get better, pay attention and get better, instead of I just don't have anything else to do. But it's a very different mindset than to even, it's not just access to horses. I think, you talk about horse lovers and stuff like that. There's horse lovers and then there's training, and there's just too many people to talk to when you're training.
That is true. Well, Steve has given us champions of today, will bring us future stars of tomorrow, and the eventual world's winningest champion, and absolutely, truly blessed to have you here. Please give a huge round of applause to Steve Asmussen. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Always.
Good to go.
And I apologize for all the 30 minutes of jibber jabber that you had to incur.
Which was